Everyone. It's always good to be back here in Singapore. This is like my second home. I used to work in Singapore over 8 years at the sports school and the sports institute. So hopefully today, hopefully I can explain the detail about how we can work together in Singapore and also in Japan because we have a good friendship. Congratulations on the success of the swimmers Joseph Schooling and Ip Pinshu for their gold medal performances at the Rio Olympic and Paralympic Games. When I was in Singapore, I was one of the members of the Olympic Pathway programs called IBP, which was initiated by the MCYS, the sports ministry at that time. To create the pathway for the podium, for the pathway to the podium. Now the Singapore has proved that both gold medal pathway for the Olympics and the Paralympics are possible. And I used to work in the sports school and then the sports institute. So I grow from looking at the talent ID level, the talent development level, and the elite high performance level. So that I try to combine everything to create the athlete's pathway. So how the pathway looks like, it may look like this when the wild animal creates the strong animal trait like this. Or the very complex system like Tokyo Metro trains transport system, which is very complex and you easily get lost when you're in Tokyo. So as you can see at the pathway, it can be you can create your own or have already the artificial pathway, but you try to work within this complex system. So where we start this pathway, it said that we can start with a dream. And this is the example of the Japanese professional football player, Keisuke Honda's graduation writings when he was primary 6. This is what he wrote in the first sentence. When I was become a professional athlete, I want to be the world number one. He said that I will be the world number one player rather than I want to be. What he said in the first sentence was very powerful. It is his will that he tried to make it as a top player in the world. It's not what he wants. He said he will make it to that point. So this is, and to do that, he said he going to the Serie A league, and then he wants to play in the number 10 jersey and everything. He wrote in the detail when he was a primary 6, 11 years old. And turning to Japan's pathway and the Talent ID initiative, we had the history of from 2000 onwards. The government initiated the basic plan for the promotion of sports, and then the Japan Institute of Sports Sciences opened in 2001, and then we initiated the local TID program. The Fukuoka program, we learned a lot from Australia, and we try to use the Fukuoka is the first TID model in Japan to try to, it's more the talent detection multi-sports program to able to, when they are 15, 16, they are able to specialize into one sport after the 5 years program. So now we are creating the whole of the pathway programs rather than just looking at the talent ID, which is just an entrance to the athlete's pathway. And we also have a good connection with the sports school and Singapore Sports School, and invited Japan Sports Council and the Fukuoka TID staff for exchange in 2009, and that has been strengthening the relationships since then. And then we saw the growth in the National Youth Sports Institute, and then the Junior Sports Academy by the MOE, and there are various pathways now available in Singapore, which is good to see. And we also have created various pathways at the local level, so we try to learn each other. So how we can increase the chance of winning the medal? Canadian on the podium project. We learned from them that the medal count can be estimated by these two formula. This medal potential athletes multiplied by the medal success rates. So this is, we look at before the Beijing Olympics and the London Olympics and see how many medal potential athletes. We define the medal potential athlete as a top 8 placing at the World Championships before the Olympics. So we had like a 71 top 8 placing at the World Championship before the Beijing Olympics, and out of 71 of them, 20% won the medal at Beijing, and that has been increased to 84 athletes came in top 8, and then out of 84, 32% won the medal. So also in Rio, we have 80% and 33% won the medal. So actually, if you compare this medal success rate with strong nations like US and China, as you can see, the medal success rate is comparable. But if you look at the absolute athletes number, we are lacking. So if you want to increase the medal count number, we need to increase the medal potential athletes head count. So our National Sports Association, NSA, already have a good system in place, but we are trying to have more systemic approach and holistic approach to creating the new performance pathway for the athletes, so that the milestone or the clear, and we try to increase the medal potential athletes. We need to build from the local level to the national level to the international level. So this is how we creating the pathway, and we are monitoring how many athletes in this stage, so that we can increase the chance of getting more athletes at the top. So there are 3 ways to reach to the top. One is talent detection, which Johan talked about previously, which is to increase the level of the talent pool and try to find a way to which mountains to climb. And the second is talent selection or the search. So they go through the selection process, and Professor Gulich talked about the deselection, and there are many talent loss in this area. And then we also have a program to support the talent transfer. Talent transfer in Japan is relatively taken as a negative word because it's like stealing the athletes from stealing the athletes. So we rather call it as a talent optimization. We try to look at more the individual capacity and ability to try to have more optimized the performance, so that they can use the previous experience and skills and transfer to the different and optimize to a different sports. So we have these three types of the talent ID programs in Japan, and we need to create a strong and sustainable system to increase the talent pool and prevent talent loss and optimize talent for recycle. So in Japan, we have this. We have 47 prefectures, and now we have working with 26 prefectures that the A category in red is already have a good program in place, a talent ID program at the local level, and the one in blue, they're going to start the talent ID programs within these few years. So they are working together at the different, they have different TID models like Fukuoka, they have a talent detection, and they try the multi-sports as I mentioned, and it has spread to many other prefectures. And we also have Yamaguchi prefecture. They have a targeted specific sports. They can specialize in wrestling, sailing, and fencing. And like Tokyo, they transfer the sports from the major sports that have more athletes into more chance for getting the medal at the different sports. And the National Training Center is at Tokyo. So now we need to try to link all the local TID together, and we form the world-class pathway network with this 26 regions. And to do that, we need to have more, another step to reach to the national and the international level. So we created at Tohoku and the Kyushu and the Hokkaido region. So we creating the system from the local to region, region to national, national to international pathways. So this is the central training center, which has we call it as a Japan High Performance Sports Center, officially at Nishigaoka. JSS was established in 2001. This is cater more on the sports science and sports medicine, sports information, but they also have a training facilities inside. And then in 2008, we opened the Ajinomoto National Training Center, which has more training indoor training facilities, and the athletes village. We can cater over 600 athletes in there. So now we have local network, and then we have centralized sports center that we try to link everything together as a pathway. And now we are planning to have a second national training center just next to here to have cater for more for the Paralympic athletes, so that we can support both Olympic and Paralympic athletes. So when to specialize in sports, when the Dr. Professor Gulich talked about when to talent identify and all this stuff. This is the study by the Japan Olympic Committee that I was involved to see how the Youth Olympic Games participants and the medalists from Japan, how they increase the training volume over the years. So this is the result. We look at the different developmental phases and try to look at the training hours per week. And as you can see, until late adolescence, the medalists and participants are doing the kind of similar training volume. But after the late adolescence, the early adulthood, and the adulthood, the medalists started to invest more in training. So that's differentiating the medalists and the participants. So, and then in the same survey, we also asked who was supporting your development over the years, and we found very interesting results that, as you can see, over the years, mothers and the fathers' contribution to the development pathway for the YOG athletes are always great. And interestingly, if you can see, up until the lower primary, the brothers and sisters were supporting, and then the friends were coming from the upper primary and secondary school, and then the high school level and above, the coaches come in to play the role. So if you talk about educating the parents or the brothers, sisters, and the coaches, we need to see when is good time to educate, to understand about more the athlete's pathway, and so that we all in the same page to develop the athletes. And how to reach to the top, we have asked 223 Olympians, the Japanese Olympians, and we found that only 15% they went straight up from the junior to senior transition, and most of them went to like a mixed descent, non-linear regression that they have up and downs into the pathway. So they succeed in the youth level, but they go down a little bit and they go up again. So this is how the pathway of the Japanese Olympic athletes looks like, and we need to study more on why this trajectory is happening. And if you look at the Japanese athletes pathway as a whole, there are many obstacles along the way. As you may heard, that declining birth rate is very serious in Japan. Age of under 14 children, there are, in 2010 there was 16 million under 14 kids, and we have been predicting that 50 years later the age population of that under 14 children will be declined to half of 8 million children when we reach the 2060. So it's a serious problem. The talent pool is getting less, and there's limiting opportunity to play the Olympic and Paralympic sports at the school level. So we also need to increase to create more infrastructure to support the pathway, especially the middle part of the pathway. So we look at the talent as a supply chain, and we need to analyze more on the what is the promotion factors and the distractions to identify how we can facilitate the pathway to move forward. So we need to think about, we can discuss a lot of things this afternoon, what is the promoting factors and distracting factors, so that we need to have an optimized pathway at the end to make the high roads if there is the high road. We, as Professor Gulich mentioned his presentation, we need to consider lots of things on the performer, environment, and practice and training factors inside the system. We need to look at very carefully what is affecting to promote and distract their pathway. So we need to look at the very holistic and systemic approach to optimize the athlete's pathway. So to do that, what I believe, there's three things, and the most important factors I believe is the coaches. Without coaches, the talents will not be excelled. So we need to find that good excellent world-class coaches first. We need to identify the coaches before identify the athletes and the talent. And then we need to create the environment around the coaches to have more optimum conducive environment. And looking at the daily training environment, training support, training camp, overseas training camp support, all this environment is important. And then lastly, we can look at the talent and identify talent and bring it to the coaches, and the environment is ready to develop the talents and the athletes. So this order is very important. If you need to look at the coaches first, and then the environment, and then the talent. So not only we consider how to do it, but we need to know who to work with. And we have been working with different organizations, the stakeholders, with the local governments to the national federation, the sports associations, and the government, and also the universities. We need to all work together, and this is the keywords I think that we try to work together and co-design the optimized pathway. I'm not sure you can have these words in Chinese. We say it as kyodo in Japanese. Is it the same? No. We say that kyodo, co-design in Japan. So we try to work together to create, we can also, Japanese pathway and Singapore pathway, we can mix together and even create the Asian pathway, so that at the continental level we can create the pathway that can excel at the international stage. And we have started to invest not only on Olympic sports but also the Paralympic sports. And this year we're going to kick off the first integrated national TID programs. We're going to invite the Paralympic coaches and Olympic coaches together to look at the talents, to see whether they can optimize the talent at the different sports. We try to combine the events we're going to do on the 19th and 20th of November. So 19th we do the Paralympic event, and the 20th we go into the Olympic event, so that the coaches can talk together in one two-day series, so that we created the platform for the coaches to start discussing about the Olympic and Paralympic pathways. And especially we need to identify the gold medalists for the Paralympic Games, because at Rio we didn't get any gold medal at Paralympic Games. So this is an urgent need for us to find, but it's not easy to do because of the Paralympic athletes. The classification is a big issue. We need to classify them before identify their talent. And I strongly believe that we need to support the athletes' dreams and make pathway for each individual and create the right environment, and where all the people here, I think, can contribute small part or big part. I think all of you guys can contribute to make the not only Singapore pathway, the Asian pathway, and the international pathway, that the people that can make their dreams come true. Thanks NYSI for inviting me for the conference. It has been great. I hope to discuss more in detail this afternoon. Thank you.